Chapter 8 of The Automobile Girls by Laura Dent Crane. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. For we are jolly good fellows. Suppose I should be arrested, thought Barbara uncomfortably. It would be distinctly unpleasant to be hauled off to jail while Aunt Sally and the girls remained stuck in the mud, not knowing my fate, and helpless to save me. I may meet old Dobbin's owner at any minute. It was after 6 o'clock, and because of the heavy storm, was almost dusk. Barbara had decided to go to the end of the lane and find the main road to New Haven, hoping to sooner discover help in that direction. Before long she came to a fork in the road. By riding close to the signpost, she found a hand pointing 9 miles to New Haven. On she sped through the mud and rain, slipping and sliding on the horse's back, but still holding tight to his mane. "Stop! Hello there! Why, Mirandy, if that ain't my own horse, and that girl astride it, running off as fast as she can. Hello, stop!" The farmer lashed the horse hitched to his rickety old buggy, and dashed after Barbara, who had ridden past without noticing them. "Stop, thief!" Down to her wet toes sank Barbara's heart. The worst she had feared had happened. If only she had seen their buggy in time to stop first and ask their help. Now, rushing by them, how could she explain? Horse thief indeed. "Oh, please," she said, her voice not quite steady. "I am not exactly running away with your horse. I am only going for help. My friends—" The farmer grabbed the horse savagely by the mane. "Come on," he said. "You can tell your story at the nearest police station. I ain't got time for such foolishness. What I see with my own eyes. You're plain running away with my hoss." "John," pleaded the farmer's wife, "you might listen to the young lady." But Barbara's looks were against her. The rain had beaten her hair down over her eyes. Her clothes were wet and covered with mud from trying to help Ruth. What could she do? Barbara was frightened, but she kept a cool head. "I'll just let the old man haul me before the nearest magistrate. I expect he'll listen to me." She was shivering, but she knew that to think bravely helped to keep up one's courage. If only it were not so awful for Aunt Sally and the girls to be waiting there, I could stand my part, murmured Bab. For 15 minutes, captors and girl jogged on. Only the old man talked savagely under his breath. He wanted to get home to his farmhouse and supper, but this made him only the more determined to punish Barbara. "I suppose we'll take all night to get to town at this rate," she thought miserably. For we are jolly good fellows. For we are jolly good fellows. Barbara could hear the ring of the gay song and the distant whir of a motor car coming down the road. If only she could attract someone's attention and make them listen to her! She could now see the lights of the automobile bearing down upon them. Like a flash, before the farmer could guess what she was doing, Barbara whirled around on old Dobbin's back and sat backwards. She put one hand to her lips. "Oh, stop, stop, please!" she cried, looking like a gypsy with her rain-blown hair and brown cheeks, which were crimson with blushes at her awkward position. On account of the rain, the oncoming darkness, the car was going slowly. At the end of one of the courses the song stopped half a second. One of the young fellows in the car caught sight of Barbara, evidently being dragged along by the irate farmer and his wife. "Hark! Stop! Look! Listen! Methinks I see a female in distress," the young man called out. The car stopped almost beside the buggy, and one of the boys in the car roared with laughter at Barbara's appearance. But the friend nearest him gave a warning prod. "Hold on there!" called the first young man. "Where are you dragging this young lady against her will?" "She's a hoss thief," said the old man sullenly. "I am no such thing," answered Barbara indignantly. Then, without any warning, Barbara threw back her head and laughed until the tears ran down her cheeks, mingling with the rain. It was absurdly funny, she sitting backwards on an old horse, one hand in his mane, and the farmer pulling them along with a rope. What must she look like to these boys? Barbara saw they were gentlemen, and knew she had nothing more to fear. "Do please listen while I tell my story. I am not a horse thief. I've some friends up the road, stuck in the mud with a broken tire in their automobile. I saw this old horse in the farmyard, and I borrowed or rented him and started for help. The old man wouldn't let me explain. Won't you?" She looked appealingly at the 4 boys in their motor car. "Please go back and help my friends." "Every man of us!" uttered one of the young fellows, springing up in his car. "And we'll drag this old Tartar behind us with his own rope. We'll buy your old horse from you, if this young lady wants him as a souvenir." It was the farmer's turn to be frightened. "I am sure I beg your pardon, miss," he said humbly enough now. His wife was in tears. "Oh, never mind him," urged Barbara. "Please go on back as fast as you can to my friends. You'll find them up the lane to the left. I'll ride the horse back to the farm and settle things and join you later." "Excuse me, Miss Paul Revere," disputed a tall, dark boy with a pair of laughing blue eyes that made him oddly handsome. "You'll do no such thing. Kindly turn over that fiery steed to me, take my seat in the car, and show these knights errant the way to the ladies in distress. I want to prove to you that a fellow can ride bareback as well as a girl can." But the farmer was anxious to get out of trouble. "I'll just lead the hoss back myself," he said. "No charge at all, miss." Evidently afraid of trouble, the farmer made a hurried start homeward and was soon lost to view, while Barbara rode back to help her friends with help. In 10 minutes 2 motor cars were making their way into New Haven. The passengers had changed places. Ruth sat contentedly with her hands folded in her lap, by the side of a masculine chauffeur who had introduced himself as Hugh Post and turned out to be the roommate at college of Mrs. Cartwright's brother, Donald. Barbara, wrapped in steamer rugs, sat beside the boy with the dark hair and blue eyes, whom Miss Sallie had recognized as Ralph Ewing, son of the friends with whom they expected to board at Newport. It was arranged that Barbara and Ruth were to sleep together the first night at New Haven. The truth was, they wanted to talk things over, and there were no connecting doors between the 3 rooms. The hotel was an old one, and the rooms were big and dreary. They were connected by a narrow private hall, opening into the main hall by a single door, just opposite Ruth's and Barbara's room. The automobile girls were in a distant wing of the hotel, but the accommodations were the best that could be found. Miss Sallie bade their rescuers a prompt farewell on arrival at the hotel. "We shall be delighted to see you again in the morning," she said, "but we are too used up for anything more to night." Barbara was promptly put to bed. She was not even allowed to go down to supper with the other girls, but lay snuggled in heavy covers, eating from a tray by her bed. Once or twice she thought she heard light footfalls outside in the main hall, but she had noticed a window that opened on a fire escape, and supposed that one of the hotel guests had walked down the corridor to look out of this window. In a short time Ruth came back and reported that the automobile girls, including Miss Sallie, were ready for bed. "I am not a bit sleepy, are you?" Ruth asked Barbara. "I will just jump in here with you so we can talk better. We've certainly had enough adventures for one day." "Oh, no," replied Barbara. "I feel quite wide awake." 5 minutes later both girls were fast asleep. End of chapter 8.